I went through my own personal sort of transformation earlier on in the year. And one of the things that really dropped in for me personally was that I wanted to create a business and a life that was felt full of freedom. And the second thing that then dropped in once I'd felt that was that, and there's absolutely no way that I'm going to bring people into my world and not offer the same freedom to them. And audio was my route to that.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast. Today, we have Debbie Edwards. She's a business mentor and performance coach, and she's going to talk to us about how she uses private podcasting in her group program and how she's actually added it to her one-on-one client services as well. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here because I think I'm one of your biggest fans from the UK. So,
Nice.
Aw,
You have some competition over there, I think.
true.
But we're
I
so
love it.
glad to meet you and to have you on the show.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Could you start by telling us a little bit about your business, kind of what you do, and maybe a little bit about your business model, just so people know what you do and how you do it?
Absolutely. So I am a growth strategist and marketing specialist by trade. And 3 years ago, I transitioned into becoming a coach post COVID because I had my own tech startup, a bit like yourselves, and COVID was not kind. So I adored that allowed me to transition. So now I work with high performing CEOs and entrepreneurs, predominantly helping them to earn more and work less. That's it in a
We all want to
nutshell.
do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, and that's my big, my model really is based around that because everybody wants to do that. But it's a bit tongue in cheek because it's very much around the fact that we've spent our entire careers, especially as women, thinking that if it isn't hard, then we haven't earned it and it isn't going to work. So, yeah, it's a lot of mindset work. And that's exactly where Hello Audio came in. And I would say helped me to transform my business model about 12 months ago.
Oh,
Oh,
wow. Okay.
interesting.
So let's actually start there. How'd you learn about private podcasting and possibly even come to find Hello Audio? Where did that come to you, I guess, in your business?
I'd definitely wanted to do a podcast. And in my tech startup, I had started to do a podcast. And it was interesting because in those days, you had to find a studio, get yourself to the studio, loads of staff, then all of the editing. I mean, the process was ridiculous. But what I also realized was that I loved that kind of long form content from me. There was something about this medium that allowed me and my voice to get into flow. And it was something that I really wanted to do. But I sort of had in my mind when I started my coaching business that, again, I would have to find a studio, I would have to find a team, it would have to be very expensive. And I just resisted it until I heard somebody actually out in the US talk about private podcasting. And so I was like, who's doing this? Where can I find it? And I spent about 6 months, I reckon, Googling private podcasting. And I couldn't find a thing. And then I
That's where
think
we're failing. Wish we were right there.
and I was like, there must be some genius out there who's going to, create some sort of studio for so many online creators like myself who don't want big teams, who do want to stay as a very agile solopreneur, but still wants to put really powerful communication out there. But there was nothing. And what was out there was clunky and a little bit, you had to stick a few things together with sticky back plastic. And that just does not help my brain. My brain always seeks out the simplest way to get to market. And I'm like, okay. And so I heard an interview. I think I started to follow, is it Andrea Crowder? It's not her
Mhm.
name.
Mhm.
And I heard her mention it in one of her Instagram stories. And I was like, all over it. That's it. I'm going to find out about these guys. And I literally found you, binged your private podcast, and then just signed up straight away. That was it. I was a done deal because I just loved the simplicity and I loved the fact that I could take an idea from my brain into your tech system through a very cheap microphone and it would be done, dusted out to market. And I was just so delighted because I felt suddenly that I could elevate the way I wanted to run my business. And I hadn't felt that before. Video was just wasn't giving it to me. I can understand that in the neurodiverse world that we live in, that there's a need to give everybody a little bit of what they want. But I think there's a point as a business owner that you have to admit to yourself that there are certain mediums that bring out the best in you, and
Mhm.
audio brings out the best in me.
Wow, I love this. Okay, I'm glad that you were able to find it. So talk to us about the first feed that you created. So you signed up for Hello Audio. What was the very first feed you created?
Well, I don't do things by halves, so I've decided to go big. Like, oh, so now I've got this entire platform to really play with. And I was in a really playful stage. I think it was definitely at the end of last year, at the turn of the year. I'd had a bit of a personal breakthrough where I was like, right, okay, we're 54. I've got two daughters. They're going off to find their own way in the world. And I was looking at my product suite. And at the time, I was doing high level one on ones and I was really loving it, but I wanted to also run a group program. By then, I'd been in other group programs over the last few years. And there was a huge thing that I'd noticed, and it was that people were coming into group programs and I could see, when you're in a group program and you can see all the different screens, you can see people's faces and their reactions. And I could see that people were coming in a group situation, they could find themselves actually losing their confidence. And I started to think, I want to put a group program together, but I don't want that to happen to people. Now, you can't avoid it completely, but I'd had in my mind certain techniques that I had used in my one to one that were based around the unusual combination of neuroscience and deep self love, because they're the modalities that I use. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I could design a protocol that is very much around creating a level of mindset work that my group program can go through prior to coming into my group program and being around all these other people so that everybody comes in at the same level of mindset, the same habit that they have now started to break, which then in turn would stop them from coming into group settings and sometimes being triggered by somebody else's success, triggered
Ooh.
thinking everyone's further ahead than me, everyone's doing 20K launches, some of those very coaching industry things that can make people think, oh God, oh shit, I'm behind. I need to
Mm.
catch up. I need to now sort of race. Or what I was also seeing was that they would start to shrink in the group programs and lose themselves. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want to create a scenario that is based around business growth, but actually, because people come into a business growth sort of group and they haven't worked on their mindset yet, that actually it starts to diminish their growth. So I decided to not do things by halves and sat down one day with your technology and thought, okay, I'm surrendering this up to the gods, but I want to design an entire mindset protocol for my clients that is completely new and I've never done it before. What do you want to send me? And
Mm.
lo and behold, I wrote the whole thing within 2 hours and it was recorded by the end of that day. And it is the single most transformative thing I've ever personally gone through. And my clients, the transformations they have is so accelerated, it blows my mind.
Oh my
Wow. So
goodness. We have
Nora,
questions. Yes.
I just want to paint a picture because for those of us listening, because this isn't really a video podcast, but Nora and I are just like eyes open, jaws dropped. We're like, okay, this is going to be fun to talk about because first of all, I want to start off with your observation of what happens in group programs. The teacher in me like felt that. And you know what
Yes.
happens in this space? People are like, well, that's their problem, right?
Y
Unless the coach, you know, works on that, then they're like, yeah, you're like, I'm giving you the tools, figure it out. And I think I've been in that situation. I've done it to myself. I've also seen it. I don't think I've ever heard anyone describe it in that way. So you had me there. And also I just want to point out too, like what an expert you are coming into this space
Oh,
and being
thank
a
you.
part of these programs and being able to provide these kind of transformations for your clients with your background and your experience. So I also want to highlight that. And yeah, so Nora and I, guys, as you're listening to this, are like, okay, this is going to be fun to talk about for sure.
Yeah, I
And
could
this
see Nora's eyes just got
Yeah.
bigger and bigger, leaned into the
but
screen.
and it's awesome because I mean, Lindsay and I have both designed programs. Like that's what we did in our prior lives, right? And one of the biggest things as an educator and as a program owner, when you care about results, is that you want people to do the work. And
Yeah.
so there's getting work done through others and motivating others to do the work is a large task. And a lot of times we do have to overcome these exact
Mhm.
roadblocks.
Yeah.
And everyone is coming to your program or your coaching. If you're doing one-on-one coaching, they're coming to you with like a lens, like they're looking at life through their lenses, right? They've got experiences, whether it could be everything from childhood traumas to just, patterns that they've had as adults. And it absolutely affects how they will do the work inside the container that you've built. And what I love about what you've done here is that you created this space that feels very accessible. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel threatening. I think specifically using a private podcast to do this work feels so doable and feasible and in a way that allows people to experience that transformation and do the work without feeling weird about it or just uncomfortable because
Yeah.
this is and it's so critical this work. Lindsay, we all know how critical this work is to get the ultimate result that they want, whatever that is in whatever program that they're joining. But I love that you chose to use private podcasts for this. I love the fact that it only took you 2 hours to do. I love that you're
So do
one of the
I.
statistics, we always say there's a high percentage of folks that are able to get their first feed down in 24 hours, and you absolutely crushed it. So I'm curious. I've got so many questions, but in that container, when you created that asset for your people and then you put it out there, I'm curious you said your process that you went through. What was the feedback that you
Un
got from
Unreal.
people that went through it?
Unreal. Because so the neuroscience behind it is big. And that's another reason why I chose audio, because there is something about the impact that happens when habit changing information goes in your ears rather than comes in through your eyes. Now, scientifically, there are reasons why the impact of that is going to be bigger for humans. But the second thing that I wanted to create for them was that, like I say, I went through my own personal sort of transformation in the earlier on in the year, and one of the things that really dropped in for me personally was that I wanted to create a business and a life that was felt full of freedom. And the second thing that then dropped in once I'd felt that was that, and there's absolutely no way that I'm going to bring people into my world and not offer the same freedom to them. And audio was my route to that. Because do I want to lock people into a screen? No, I don't. They do enough of that. Do I want people to increase the efficacy of the audio program even more by being able to go out and walk in nature and listen to what I'm telling them? Yes, I do. And the thought that this could be a group program, but the audio allowed them to have their personal moment with me was so powerful for me because, like you say, everybody comes in from all of their different roots, whether it's family stuff or work stuff or confidence stuff, whatever it is. But the minute they pop on those headphones, they have a personal relationship with me, and we haven't even started yet. That was powerful. And I was getting messages from people because I give it to them for a month before they join the program. So they can listen to it on repeat and move themselves through it and journal through it and start to, by the end of it, at day 21, their habits that they might have come in with without it will be totally gone. Their limitations that they previously might have walked into that room have gone. They have better habits in place. They have better thoughts in place. And there are certain parts of it that mean that by the time they come in, they are treating themselves with such grace and deep self love. It's like nothing they've ever experienced. So, the efficacy of my work before they even get in a classroom with me is where I wanted it to be. And none of this was done without me requiring a huge amount of courage from myself to believe that I could change people's minds in a 4-week period before they've even come and been coached by me. But that was the proof. I let my first cohort have access to it, and the messages I was getting and the feedback I was getting before they'd even set foot in a coaching scenario with me was unreal. And then, like I say, when they then came into the coaching environment, I could coach them so differently because some of the obstacles that they might have walked into previously just didn't exist anymore. So, for example, the first session in the protocol is about cultivating deep self love, but I use one sentence to do it. And so all they have to do is listen to this one sentence on repeat. So, should I share it with you?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So the sentence that I ask them to listen to and then repeat to themselves in any given moment on any given day, whenever they find that they need it or they come up against a challenge, challenging thought, a challenging situation, is to just say to themselves, how can I love myself even more deeply right now? And that's it. And there's a science behind it. So when you break down the sentence, so the first part of the sentence is, how can I? Which is beautiful because your brain goes, oh, brilliant. Deb's asking us a question. So it sparks into life. It likes it. We treat our brains like Google every day. Your brain says, brilliant. This is what we're used to. She's firing a question at us. Great. Let's get there. So it's the how can I? But then you say, how can I love myself? And your brain goes, oh, she doesn't normally ask that. She doesn't normally ask us to find a solution to that. She's normally asking us, "Oh God, how can I get better at this? And how can I move forward with this?" All of the negative questions that we would normally ask. So the brain then has a chance to have a little bit of a new spark. So suddenly you move yourself into more of a neuroplasticity state. So it's like, oh, this is new. She's asking us how we can love ourselves. So how can I love myself? And then you say, even more deeply. And the brain goes, oh, so if she's asking, how can I love myself even more deeply? Then the body says, oh, that means on some level, she loves us so much already. So the body relaxes and the nervous system gets ready to just relax for the answer. And then you say, right now, which means that then your brain and your body are working together to find a solution, but you're in this beautiful, soft, loving, neutral, compassionate state. That is a brand new gateway in your brain that will give you then answers that you've probably never been able to access before in your life.
Wow. That's powerful. And delivering that, I mean, just listening to you, listening to your voice
Mm,
and walking through that, I could feel the impact of that. And so I can only imagine. And that's one piece
That's one piece.
of this, month long process that will
Hmm.
help people go through this. I can absolutely see how when they start the coaching program, how much of a transformation
mm,
they've already received from going through this private podcast.
Yeah, because, think about the reasons why a lot of people will be seeking coaching. It's normally from a place of not feeling enough.
mhm,
And I turn that on its head and say, you are absolutely fucking amazing. But it's not worth me as your coach coming in and saying that to you in the sessions. You have to learn that for yourself. You have
mhm,
to feel that deep in your bones. And you have to teach your nervous system and your brain to seek out different solutions to the ones that have previously actually been the things that probably made you feel like you're holding yourself back. Even just that one question, that one statement will take you through a gateway that you have never walked through before. And the level of answers then that your body will then send you rather than just your brain, because your brain
mm,
just wants to find solutions. It's so much more compassionate, so much more real. It will change you on a cellular level as well, because it can't not change you on a cellular level because your entire body is involved now and it wants to send you things that you've never thought of before. So it's powerful.
This is one of the coolest. I
Yeah.
don't even know what you call it, like, it's like precursors to a coaching program,
Yeah, like
and it's
pre-framing or
simple,
something.
meaning,
Mhm.
like, you didn't you could deliver this as all asynchronous,
Yep.
so you
Mhm.
created this amazing asset, you're able to deliver it, it's convenient for your folks to listen to, and they show up completely
Yeah.
different in the
Yeah.
Mm.
program itself.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm sitting here saying this, it's like it's not even pre anything, it is the process. Like
It
Yeah.
you've
is,
actually
yeah,
right? And so it's that integral to the whole thing that it's like the preface, if you will, but the reality is it is a part of the
it
book
is.
because
Yeah.
you couldn't not read that part of the book and understand where to start, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that information is important. So as I'm
Yeah.
like listening and I'm like, oh, it's not just like tacked on. This is well thought out and very important. I'm also like, I feel like every program needs this. And then I'm like,
Yes.
Debbie, is
Yeah,
that something like you need to sell this somehow? I don't know,
Yeah.
license it. Because yeah, the reality is a lot of people need most of this, like what you need to know before you join another coaching program or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Podcast you have to listen to before you get into a coaching container.
Yeah, you're
Um,
absolutely right. And I
yeah.
have considered that because there'll be people who are running pure coaching programs, there'll be people running pure business programs. But the missing bit is that feeling of safety and doing your own
Mm,
safeguarding before you come in. Because, we've all heard those nightmarish stories of people that go into some of these big groups where there's a certain level of energy that clearly is not going to serve everybody on every level. It's just not. So, this ability to also be very seen because you have a very personal experience, but you don't have to come into the group and constantly go over, oh, here's where my thinking is this week, or here's where my challenge is this week. If they come into my programs when we start coaching and they show up with something, all I do is gently say, okay, what I'd really like you to do is we'll work through this now, but once we finish, go back into session 3, because that's where you're really going to find your answers. So then there becomes this
mm,
beautiful ebb and flow between growth and understanding. And what is really happening is they are creating the deepest foundation within their nervous system. That means that I can then coach them on growth in a totally different way because we're not then pushing at doors that don't want to open. They're already open. I just then have to walk them through the door. It's totally, totally different. And I think for them, it means that this is a lifetime thing, right? Mindset work is something that, every level, different devil, whatever. It's just to have something that I know that as they grow, they dip back into as well. So the
mm,
protocol is a lifetime protocol. You were right, Lindsay. This isn't just, okay, this is an add on to a program. This is lifetime stuff. And the beautiful thing is when I hear them saying, well, I actually let my kids listen. And I had a conversation the other day that was totally different with my teenager because I'd listened to session 4 within, your protocol. This stuff is changing lives. It's not simply about the increased efficacy in my group programs. It's changing their entire dynamic because once their minds have been changed and that neuroplasticity is in place, they can't go back and they don't want to. And the interesting thing is to watch them is it's like it becomes quite addictive. It's like, they start getting high on their own supply sort of thing. It's like, ooh, I've never loved myself like this before. I'm going in deeper. They're like, well, I'm going back in because this stuff's really good. I want more of this. And that's where my work around, well, why don't we earn more and do less? It suddenly becomes like fun because their brains are so on board with just going, do you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just blow the doors off this because there's no limitations. And as I say to them, the beautiful thing about session 1 being about really deeply anchoring into loving yourself is that then what happens is when they talk about taking risks, when they talk about growth strategies, I always say to them, okay, why don't you send love ahead? And they go, what? And I go, send love ahead. Because you already love yourself now. It doesn't matter what you choose to do next. You know that at the end of that, the result is not going to change the fact that you love yourself deeply. So send love ahead. You can be sure of
mm.
that. So it's being able to play with language like that and tone like that with them and get them to see that love isn't something that they feel when they've got the desired outcome, whether it's a 10K month or we've grown to seven figures. Love is something that now is an inherent part of you. It's not going away anymore, you know? So that for me as a coach and as a human being, that's just unbelievably magical to watch.
There's a lot there. You know what I heard you say too that I'm like, "Oh, yeah." The fact that it's in audio and in their podcast player, they can have a moment with their child and be like, "I need to reset," and right? Or, "I'm about to go into this conversation, I need to prep for it." And it's so easy to find it versus if it was in, I don't know, Kajabi or think if it you're, like, logging in, you're, like, going to a module, you have to, like, watch a video. No, I can go to it so fast. It's very private because it's in my headphones. I could be doing whatever else I need to be doing. I don't have to be looking at anything. That's huge. That's how you
Yeah.
create like almost, I don't even know the right word, like a book, a chapter, a research guide, a reference point,
Yeah.
and people can reuse it so much easier than anything on video.
Yeah. Completely. And,
You've created a tool for people that
yeah.
they can come back to.
Yeah, and I think, at the root of it is that it deeply honors them as well, and it honors the fact that, yes, you might be coming to me to work on your business strategy, but I want to honor your life at the same time because we
Mm,
don't necessarily always do that. We go into programs and it's like, okay, now I'm in my program and this is my mastermind and it's very separate to my life. And even
mm,
though the kids are screaming in the background and somebody needs dinner straight after I've finished this mastermind call that's really powerful, and it's all great stuff, but it's do you know what? This stuff is life changing. It's not just business changing, and use it as you will. And that's the freedom thing. It's like use it wherever. I've got one client who she said her 13-year-old daughter comes in and goes, right, what's the Debbieism for this week? Because my friends need to know. And she shares, well, okay, so in session 4, Debbie says this, and then so they have this beautiful moment, and then
oh my
she
God, I
gets to
love
go
that.
and speak to her teenage friends and says, "The Debbieism this week is this," and it's just gorgeous to have that. I've also seen clients use this, especially with like teenage sons, and I've used it with, they'll have a conversation with their husbands about it, and I don't think we understand sometimes that when you create something out of freedom, then somebody will take that and make it even more meaningful for them in
Mm,
their lives in a way that I could probably have never even imagined when I was building this. Some of the things that come back at me make me sit back in my chair and go, this is life affirming for me. And I think we forget that in this big, huge journey of business, that actually those moments matter so much, to understand the impact that your words are having and just finding a really simple tech that allows it to just get out of you and into the world has just the whole thing's been bloody magical for me.
I'm
I
having a
think
super weird full circle moment where I was like, oh, that's why we created Hello Audio. And we're having this podcast where people reflect back to us the freedom that it's given them, and it makes us feel really fulfilled. So I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
that's
This is
how
what
yeah.
happens when you create
Yeah.
something from that space. And that is like 1,000% why we created it. And in many cases, we didn't even realize, like you had just said, I didn't even know how people were going to go off and use this because it's so moldable and adaptable and it allows them, to create from their own freedom. That is
Yeah.
1,000% why we created this product.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And then it gets better. So then they come into my group program and they've got this for life and they've already seen the transformation. And then I set each of them up with their own private podcast. And then I can send them what I call love notes. And I'll just send them a little
Mm,
message. I'll say, I recorded you a love note. I got a real instinctive feeling after our session today. I've popped something in your private feed. Go and check it out. And honestly, that that's just become renowned. They would be texting each other saying, "Has she sent
who
you
got
one?
one?
Has she sent you one? Have you had your love note?" And then they tell other people, "You need to coach with this girl, and you'll never guess what, she sends you love notes." So it's created a reputation as well and there's something so special about that they feel so heard. It's a really strange thing, but it seems it's, like, very childlike, it's this
Mm,
beautiful, magical, secret moment between the 2 of us where I just to get to go, I see you, and I'm just going to
Mhm.
whisper in your ear for a little bit, and you can then take from that what you need, because that's how it feels from me. I can, even when I record, I can find my voice will go down a notch, and I'll be like, okay, hey, just noticed this today, and I just want to say you're doing great, and just think about this and keep doing that. And I just strangely imagine myself just creeping into their room in those moments that we all get as business owners where we think, I hate it. I want to give up. I think I'll go and get a job. Let's go back on LinkedIn and see what there is. And then I get to just whisper in their ear at a time when they absolutely need it and go, it's okay. It's okay.
And why is that better than Voxer or Telegram?
Well, having been in Voxer, and I'm in one at the moment, and I love the coach that I'm with, I find it, and this is my favorite word, so discombobulating some days because I've already got 1,000 things in my brain. And I know that it's still audio, but it's just not the same. It's not the same. There isn't that level of seamless connection with my
Mm,
people, because normally as well, if we're talking about group stuff, I don't mind it so much one on one, but when people are using it as an add-on to their group, what you've got then is a lot of noise, because it's like,
mm,
let's celebrate our wins. There's a voice note, there's a message, there's emojis. And for me, there are days when that just blows my mind and I have to come
mm,
out of it. I have to retreat. I have to calm down. So with this, it's totally different. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like a treat. It feels like a treat to do it, and every single client just adores it. They're like, "My own private feed." Oh, you know, they feel it's interesting when I joined this call, it was like, "We're just rolling out the red carpet for you." That's what private feed feels like for my clients. I'm just rolling out
mm,
the red carpet, and every now and again, I'll pop in and I'll send you a personal note, and you can sit wherever you like and listen to me, and we're just understanding each other. Whereas Vox is just a bit more let's
yeah.
go, people, let's celebrate, let's do this, and what about that? And here's an audio drop.
There's, like,
Oh,
expectation for you there, I think.
yeah,
You know what I think it is? It's you know how people say, like, your inbox ends up being a to-do list for other people?
yeah,
Voxer isn't maybe that, but it is like a production zone for me.
yeah, yeah,
There are collaborations, there's blah, blah, blahs, there's I have this idea, and it's very I love it. I love
yeah,
it because I love it I love some audio. But you're right, it's the energy when I go into that app is very like, "Well, I need" there I'm doing things. Like, it's and it may even be connecting with a friend, but
yeah,
usually there's something happening, right? And there's almost an expectation of response and reply. And I think what I'm getting this vibe, because I don't think I've ever thought about it this way. You're like presenting this in a new way. Nora and I, when we like were building Hello Audio, we totally thought people would drop in episodes that are made for people individually. I don't think as many people do that as they
mm,
could. So I want this to be your like, alert, because I think there's easy things like Voxer. Stay tuned for what we're developing over here, but we'll talk
oh,
about that later. However, yeah, it's you're putting the client in a receiving position
yeah,
and just receive. And I think for women, that's really hard. And so this idea of like just receive these like amazing like things about how awesome you are, from this person, right? And
yeah,
you can't reply. Like,
yeah,
there's no feed that goes I mean, maybe there could be, but, like, the reality is it's about receiving
yeah,
in this container, and also the energy of a private or sorry, the energy of a podcast player. It's, "I have me time. What do I
yeah,
wanna fill my brain with right now?" Maybe
mhm,
it's true crime, and sometimes it is.
yeah,
Maybe it's a course and you're learning something, but also maybe it's really amazing content and thoughts from Debbie, and so I will actively choose that. That is very different than Voxer, which is almost feels like a
yeah.
text message. It feels like an email, and you're just like, am I going to have to reply? Am I going to have to do something? And the answer is no. You can't
No,
even like it. You can't even put a heart.
nope,
It's
nope.
just receive.
Yeah, and you're right. For women especially, I think there's something beautiful in that exchange. It's like, no, I don't need anything from you. There's no
Mm,
expectation from me. I was just thinking about you, and here's your gift. Use it, do what you will, where you will, and let yourself receive for
mhm.
once. And that's it,
Really, it
and that is.
elevates.
Yeah, it is. It's
I
powerful stuff. And more than anything else, selfishly, I adore it. I
Mm,
just love it. And I think that comes across. And it's like, I made a decision this year that I was going to design this business the exact way I wanted it to. And if I want to send love notes personally to every person I work with, I'm going to do it. And somebody else would look at that and go, well, you're a bit stupid. That's not going to scale. And I'm going to be like, watch me and take pictures because
mhm,
connection scales and, simplicity scales. And that's what it's all about. I know that when I get in this situation where it's just me and my microphone and I'm just thinking about that person, I also know that there's something about my voice that just lands for people. So I'm just using my best abilities here as well. It just draws out something from me that video just never has. It just never has. So yeah, you've created something pretty special for me, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way.
thank you for saying that. It's so aligned in so many
Mm,
different ways, right? It's aligned with the transformation that you're helping people have. It's aligned with how you want your business to show up and how you want to feel as you deliver it. I actually really love the thought of adding these one-on-one. We knew it was people would do it for one-on-one work, but to elevate a group coaching program
mhm,
is just a really great it's a
mhm.
great tool to have,
mm,
and it's a great experience, I feel like, for the folks in that group coaching program, so I
yeah.
really love this idea, and I'm hoping a lot of folks
More
listening to
people
this, if
run with it. Yeah.
yeah, if you're listening to it and you're thinking that I think that's feasible, I could
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely drop messages to people.
This made me realize too, back to what I said before this, is it's easy to re-listen to stuff. I don't
Mhm.
think we re-listen or, re-listen to compliments about ourselves, right? Or like encouragement. And so this idea that I've had coaching calls, this has always been my favorite use case of Hello Audio. It's like I've had coaching calls and they give me the link to Google Drive and then I never watch it. And there was a
No.
great moment, whatever. And so here you are not only creating it for the program and for this transformation that you have them go through getting into the program, but now you're also giving them a love note that they could re-listen to over and over if they need to.
Yeah,
So
and
there's
they do.
another resource. I bet. I could only
Yeah.
imagine. Like you're
Yeah,
creating
there's
this
there's
habit
one.
of
There's
yeah.
there's
And
one that's
I
like 18 listens, and I'm like, "That's so nice." But you've just
uh,
hit on another point for me, is that it's amazing to me how I feel this has improved my ability to coach people on an individual level as
mm,
well. So when they come into the program and they come into the sessions, and sometimes they'll present with certain things and they'll say, "Oh, I just don't know why I can't move past this." And I will have had a look at how many times they've listened to certain sessions that address the thing that they are presenting with. And I'll be able to say to them, listen, I've noticed that you've only listened to that particular session once. I really feel like it would help you as soon as we finish. Will you go and listen to it? So, the level of teaching that allows me to bring as well, I'm not constantly racking my brains in every session thinking, right, what did they present with last week? What could I tell them this week that's going to help them overcome it? I've already done the legwork and I know that there's something that can help with them. All they need to do is make time for it for themselves. So, first of all, it's great for me as a coach. Secondly, it increases their level of accountability with regards to doing that kind of work and also not making where they are wrong all the time in a group setting. So they can go off and just think, yeah, this is something I really need to address still. I'll listen to it privately and I'll go through my shit privately. I don't have to bring it in every week and make myself wrong for it. And that's so nice because you know what it's like when you go through, when some of us, we have big blocks naturally because they relate back to our childhood or particular incidents that happen in work, and they take time. Sometimes people will show up in coaching sessions, and because it's the same thing again, they'll be frightened to bring it up because they'll think, surely she thinks I should have dealt with this by now. And I'm like, no, it's okay. But I tell you what, pop something in your ears and you'll get there and you'll get there sooner. So, that ability for me to watch the progress of people through that protocol is also absolutely so impactful for me as a coach. I think it allows me to have a flow as well in my sessions that are so much more powerful than if I was trying to individually try and deal with everybody's stuff every week. I don't need to do that.
It's so good. We've talked about coaching calls more as it relates to maybe a little less group program because that does have a different, more intimate vibe, more like a course, like with Mariah Cause in her episode on
Yeah.
kind of getting rid of them altogether for many of the reasons you brought
Mm,
up. Like people, someone's having this emotional experience and that's cool. And also, like, it's really hard to what's the word? Like, manage that. I hate saying
mm,
manage because we're talking about people's emotions and
yeah,
mental health and all of that. But the reality is that it is hard to manage when there's many people on a call. And not that you're saying that doesn't happen, but you're saying you also
yeah,
have resources outside of the call that you can point people to. And so I think there is something really special there that you don't necessarily have to get rid of these types of calls, but how can you best support the people showing up to these calls? And maybe if they had tools heading into these calls that could help them get in the frame of mind for these calls, this
yeah,
will actually make them more efficient and more beneficial to everyone
yeah.
because I think there's a lot of that happening in our
Yeah,
space.
that's definitely. I think I just wanted to give people an ability to learn how to self-lead as well. Surely that's the point
Yes.
in coaching, it's like
Hmm.
you don't have to be in the sessions to learn how to self-lead and know what you need on any given day. And of course, if they come in and they just need a good cry, then that's brilliant. But then I can also say, I think session 5 is really going to help. Just go out
Hmm.
and have a little listen. And then what I'll do is I'll send them a personal note, a little love note. So it all just interlinks because I love
Hmm.
Mariah's work. I love the
Hmm.
asynchronous way that she's doing things. I think that there's such a place for that. There really is a place for that. And I think that that audio bit is so powerful for me.
Hmm.
I can't believe that everyone isn't doing it. That is the honest truth is that I can't
Yeah.
believe that every coach isn't doing this. But I think that
Mm.
there's probably something around understanding the neuroscience as well of how audio impacts us in so many different parts of our bodies and how it allows us to process information so differently. And I think that I just realized that I didn't want to bombard people with anything more. A
Mm.
lot of my clients, their mums, they're in WhatsApp groups. They've got, oh my God, I'm so glad I missed that bit. So I don't want to bombard them or draw them into something else that requires their attention.
Mm.
Um, I want them to just be present with themselves, and audio is the only thing that allows you to do that. The only thing.
Yeah. As you're listening here, I'm like, there's literally no other way that you could create this experience or transformation
No.
with any other medium. Like I believe that. Like I'm walking away from being like, yep, 1,000%,
Yeah.
110% to believe of that. You also have me having so many ideas, and I'm like, is this your energy? Because I want to be around it all the time. Because now I'm sitting here, Nora, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like we've pretty nailed the, like, course creator person, right? Like, they can come on and throw their program on our product very easily, and the coach usually has a program, right? And so we're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's what they do." But this is deeper what you're saying. Like, now I'm sitting here being like, "We should go to some of these coaching certification programs." And what you just said, the neuroscience behind why it's audio, yada, yada. I mean, there's something there, Nora, like that we need to
Yeah.
dive deeper into this coaching space and why audio versus other mediums. Mm.
Yeah. There is, honestly, that I think if people understood how they could accelerate people's results, they would all be doing it in an instant
Yes,
because
of
that's what
course.
coaches want, isn't it?
That's right. Mhm.
It's definitely not an ego thing for me, but to be able to get results in such a wholesome way as well. So I'm getting results by giving them freedom and understanding neuroscience, getting them to know their bodies better than they've ever known it before in their lives. That is the holy grail because I'm
Mm.
not getting you to 10K months or a six-figure year burning out and thinking that there's only one blueprint. I'm giving you a very, very unique, tailored experience that you yourself will self lead through most of it. And I will just be a seasoned guide that walks alongside you. That's a very different experience in the coaching world.
And one that people are leaning into and recognizing that's
Yeah.
how coaching, at its highest
Yeah.
form can be, is that
Yeah.
not
It's just so much fun. So much
I mean,
fun.
I can tell you show up and you're very like, "This is the
Yeah,
best
I'm
thing
like,
ever."
and most of the sessions that you see, because we're doing that work, most of the sessions I just go, "Oh, come on, guys, let's just play. Let's
Mm,
just play," because there's some big work that can go on and around it, and we do sometimes, we'll have that as well, but other times I'll just go, "Guys, business was never meant to be this hard. You weren't given these gifts so that you could struggle and hate yourself till success. Why don't we play? Why don't
mm,
we just let a level of audaciousness seep into our bodies and just go, what could we do with this shit? What could we really do with this shit? It's like, come on, we can't keep making it so serious. We're not meant to
mm,
be building businesses so
mhm,
seriously. And especially women. There's a certain flow to us, there's a certain level of playfulness that I think the minute we tap into that, we just fly. We absolutely fly. It also gives me freedom to just go, right, gloves off, guys. Come on. Let's play here, because who knows what we could do when we just
Yeah,
have some fun and take ourselves into a curious state.
yeah,
And
and
and then I
they're
can,
supported in
yeah,
doing
they
that
know they're
because you know where
supported.
your mind is at. Yeah,
Yeah,
their mind is
yeah,
at.
but they've already it is the oh, it's just so good. So already when I say things like that, because there's an episode in the actual audio sessions, they're already trained so that when I go, "Let's play," they switch their entire nervous systems into a curious state, which means they're open to the
Mm,
suggestion that we could go big here. And nothing within their bodies shifts and goes, "No." It goes, "All right, all right, we're here. Let's do it." So honestly, the excitement that you can have and the level, but it's all done within what I call this like founder energetic continuum, which is the more we can create a neutral state for me to then pose a thought that we could go bigger for you and you can stay in neutral and then we can do
mhm.
it, is just off the charts,
That's how shit gets
honestly.
done.
Yeah.
Debbie, this is so good. I want to hang out with you more. Okay, so I feel like you're going to have a good answer for this, and I don't know if this is like the most pressure in the world, but I don't know. I don't think that even makes sense for you, that sentence. So this is a question we ask everybody at the very end. If you had a private podcast of your life's ramblings, what would you call it?
Oh, work in progress.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
it.
I think one of the things that keeps me feeling so alive in this industry is that I adore being both the teacher and the student all of the time. I love it because
Mm,
that means that my eyes can be opened every day. And it also means that sometimes my clients are my biggest teachers. And I get to sit back in my chair and have that beautiful, humbling moment of thank you for being a mirror for me today. And I love that. There's something about that connection for me that really matters. And it means that I'll never get old.
mm,
I'll never get old with that
yeah.
mindset. Never.
Hmm.
And, I always say to people, my favorite people are 3-year olds and 93-year-old because, firstly, neither of them really give a shit. And secondly, they're both in that wide eyed, anything could happen, nothing can shock me, I don't really care. And I think having that in business it means that I can also experience this in a playful way that previously when I've done businesses, I've been so intensely serious about it all, especially, and you guys will know this in the tech startup world, there's a lot of bros, that it's so hard to get investment. There's so
Hmm.
few females in the tech industry. And so to be able to create lightness and let that lightness be the thing that propels you towards your success, you're on fire after that.
Definitely.
So
Oh my
yeah.
goodness. I have loved talking with you. I wish that we're going to have to do this again.
Yes,
We'll get on.
100%.
Let's do it.
We'll
Let's do
reschedule
it.
it. But I really thank you so much for sharing how you're using Hello Audio. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing how you're transforming just the world and with your work. I can't thank you enough for being here today. Thank you so
Oh, no.
much.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. And I will come on anytime you like and tell you what I'm up to with my little love notes. And yeah, I'll be your poster girl for all the coaching industry people that need to know that this works. So yeah, I'm in.
That sounds fab. Let's do it. Awesome. And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.